Yes. welcome to another edition of King's Talk, where we can come together as men and really be honest with each other and figure out what we can do to better the community, better the church, better everyone. So, listen, I'm the host, Brian Thompson, Pastor Brian Thompson, Prophet Brian Thompson. I really don't worry about that title that much because at the end of the day, God created us as a human being without the titles. So, listen, I have some very, very special guests here today. My brothers and my nephew here, like I'm ecstatic for what's getting ready to go forth. I have my brother Bernard here, Ben here, Chef Don over there.
That's the sensei right
there. All right. So, listen, I'm thankful for what God is doing. God is just building us up in a whole different way, and I'm thankful to have y'all here. Means a lot. I tried to get y'all on. This is actually the second year of this. I'm actually thank God for this. I wanted y'all to be on the first year, but God had other plans, and God knew that today was needed. So we bless God for today. So the question, and as y'all already saw on the post, how to build a stronger man. As I was sitting here thinking about this, I was like, wait a minute, how can we build a stronger man? You know, what does it take to build a stronger man? So I asked y'all anyone go first? You know, what's your thoughts on trying to figure out how to build a stronger man?
I think we have to kind of put some perspective on it. So when you say building stronger men, are we building, stronger men in the household? Is this about raising our children, raising, our sons to be, stronger men, or just, the experience of being a man, or in general?
You know, that's actually a very great point, and it's actually all the above, because if we don't start at home, they're not going to act right out in the street. Mm-hmm. So, we're thankful that the three of us have boys, and, it's tough trying to figure out how to raise a child now in these crazy times. So
there's absolutely no, it's been said before, there's no playbook for raising children. Parenting styles are different. All children are different personalities. The way you approach some children is going to be different than the way you approach others. I have an older son, 17. I have, a 1-year-old, and they're two completely different people. So my approach to them can't be the same. It's, and in the times we're in, I was talking to you before, kind of when I first got here. We all came up in the same neighborhood, lived around, the same area, even down in the same area. Times now are totally different than when we came up. There's so many different things that you have to watch out for, as far as like social media, as far as the times. Kids out here, they have, when I was coming up, there was a lot of, we get in a fight, street fights, you go home, the next day you be outside playing basketball. Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing now.
Right.
Kids, my son's age, will shoot you.
Yeah.
You have to prepare your children for what's, out here in the world. I think I was talking to you earlier, the most important thing to me right now with my 17-year-old is that he makes it home safely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, before, above anything, pride, above, somebody comes up on you and they're trying to take your stuff, and they got a gun, give it to them. Make it home safe.
Yeah.
That's what's important to me. I feel like that with my son, he is, totally different. He's very intelligent, reads, plays music, enjoys music. I feel like he has a future, and I want him to live out his days to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, oof. Like, that's the brink of it right there, trying to figure out how to get your son out of any predicament.
I mean, we live in Philly too, so.
Right.
I mean, you know, every day is a struggle with that. But you know, it's funny because I was thinking about when you posed the topic to us, thinking of different men in my life, like not just people who I look up to, but more so people who I know who are men and who have raised men. And
Right.
the landscape of that is so different. Like I have like a few friends, close friends of mine, people I consider brothers who had no father. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they are in a position where they are raising strong men. You know, sometimes you're in a place where you didn't get that teaching. So like how it's kind of like, what do you know about raising a man? But these men are out here figuring it out. You know, some of us that come from like a single parent or a 2-parent home. You know,
Right.
we're figuring it out. It's like a everyday lesson. You know, where sometimes you make the right decisions, sometimes you make the wrong decisions, but you do the best decisions. You know, for those people that you care about, your family.
Right.
I always say, you know, I talk to Donovan a lot. I talk to friends of mine. This is something I learned a long time ago. I feel like as a man, you always have to have 3 people in your life.
Okay.
The first person is your mentor. Like for me, it'd be like my Uncle Mike, right?
Okay.
He's somebody I always can go to. We don't talk all the time, but when I talk to him, it's a valid conversation. It might even only be a few words, but he's someone I can bounce ideas off of, get inspiration from, or he could even just give me that look. And then like
that
you know
look.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more so somebody to kind of keep you in line. Like
Right.
as a man, like we're grown now. Like you're not answering anybody, you know what I mean? But you know, somebody give you that look, you be like, you know what, you're right. You know? But it's just somebody to kind of keep you in the right place. You know, you could do that with a pastor or you know, a mentor, anybody that you look up to. So that's the first person. The second person you'll need in your life is a peer. You know, somebody who is going through the same things that you're going through. You know, somebody be like, hey man, I messed up with this.
Right.
Or like, yo, what are you doing to, you know, with this, you know, this situation, you know, my son is into this now. What do I do? You know,
Yeah.
my son is only 2 years old. I'm asking y'all questions about everything. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the third person is a person that you were bringing up. Like for me, this is one of my nephews and my other nephew, Aaron. Like these are people who I'm trying to, you know, instill certain things in that were instilled in me.
Right.
But the funny part about that is a lot of times you'll think that like, oh, you're teaching him something. Right?
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to him and I'm talking to my other nephew, I'm always learning something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that will lead me to like my last thing is like, you always think a lot of times that the smartest person in the room is the person who's like doing the most talking. They're usually not.
No, they're not.
The smartest person in the room is the person who's doing the most listening because they are able to gather everybody's thoughts, gather everybody's idea, and make an educated decision based off the information that they get. So.
Right. And, you know, that's actually scripture right there, too, you know. Be slow to speak, quick to listen. You know, we're a generation that's so quick to give an answer that we forget the question that was even asked. So Don,
Yeah.
what you got to say about?
I would say,
this?
and I am still growing as a man. I would say,
You want to be a stepdad?
soon. No, I say 2 things. I say one, I kind of like live by this idea where like, clean your house, you clean your life.
Okay.
So when I think about being a man, I'm like, at the most you can do, at the least you can do is clean yourself. And once you are yourself, your very true self, then it doesn't matter like what you try to teach at that point. Because anybody will be attracted to your genuine self. So this last Monday, Martin Luther King Day, I volunteered at my church. And we were supposed to bring out a bunch of young kids. And it was a lot of young people out there. All men. All young men, like from local high schools. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like where they come from? Then my one friend's like, yeah, well, so there's a guy at our church named Brother Hans. He's actually a pastor Hans. But they all came out for him. Now, this guy he's an amazing guy. He's strong in the word. he's a little, crazy sometimes, like funny or just like I would say corny.
Okay.
But yeah, I know. But beyond all that, these kids came to the thing and they were there at 8 a.m. They were there till 6 o'clock p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And they were working hard, and strictly for the fact that they enjoyed their relationship with him so much that's what they wanted to do. And I'm like, doing that, he's never sacrificed who he is as a person.
Right.
He's never sacrificed his own thoughts. He's never sacrificed how he felt about God or how he felt about people. And in that, the kids liked that. The kids trusted that. And I'm like, if anything, I'm like, that is what it takes. That's what it takes, I would say, to raise a man, to build stronger men, to build yourself as a stronger man.
Okay.
And even like they say, like I watch videos all the time. They were saying about the gym. It's like you can't just go to the gym for 9 hours and just be like, all right, listen, I'm changed, I'm stronger now. No, it takes time. So like you have to be willing to know, like, yo, I'm gonna mess up. But then be willing to be like, yo, but I can own that mess up. And once you own that mess up, that's even more honorable than doing the right thing in the first place. Because you're able to take a step back and be like, yo, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. It was my fault. But now let's move forward from that. So, I don't know. Those two things I learned, and very much recently is learning all these things. And I would say that it's not from my own thing. It's from reading the word, talking to this man right here, who's instilled these thoughts in me, instilled these ideas and understanding. I don't know. Like, the best way to build a greater man, to build a stronger man, is by having the greatest examples of stronger men in front of you. So I say, like you talk about single parent home. My mom was a single parent, but there is no lack of strong men around me.
Right.
Like my uncle is not that much older than me, and then you guys, like as much as y'all grew up together, I grew up with y'all too.
Right.
So look at the role models that I have to set in front of me, and then be like, how can you not build stronger people from that? Like even just with the conversation, with just the encouragement, with everything. That's how you build stronger people, and like that's what we need more of. We just need more of just people just being like, listen, I'm going to be me. I may mess up, but like I'm a man. I'm trying to help you be like. You don't have to experience everything if you know that there's a downfall in something. It's just a weird thing. That's why.
Being genuine, being honest, being yourself.
Exactly.
You know, so I think one of the things that you said that resonated with me is that's kind of how I try to be with, once again, falling back onto my teenage son. I, myself as a man, have made many mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't try to hide that from him. You know, I talk to him about the mistakes I made, and I try to steer him away from those mistakes, you know.
Right.
I don't try to hide anything I do. If he asks me a question, I'll have a real conversation with him about some of my downfalls, where I thought I messed up and where I thought I could be better, you know. And I think, you know, definitely not at a young age. Maybe not, you got to wait till they're a certain age. Because, I mean, you don't want to be having certain conversations with kids that are 4, 5, and 6 year old. But when they're a teenager, when they understand, you know, I think the best way to be is, like you said, your genuine self. Let them see, let them recognize where you failed, and let them, you know, give them an idea of how they could be better. They might even be going through the same thing. And it builds trust, it builds a connection. And then when you have trust and connections with your kids, it's easier for them to come to you when things are going wrong.
Yeah.
You know, something else that made me think about that too is, I think a big part about it is just being present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not just in, you know, the lives of your kids, but like, you know, people that you actually care about. You know what I mean? Like relationships that mean something to you, that's important to you. Like being there, being able to connect with people that you don't connect with all the time. Like that type of stuff is important. I mean, even if we're just talking about kids, like how many times have you had friends or family say, well, yeah, I had a dad and he was in the house, but I never really knew him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We never really had that real relationship. And then they go connect with that uncle, or they go connect with, you know, that basketball coach or somebody like that they didn't spend half as much time with, but they feel like they have a stronger connection with that. Because I mean, you know, young men, whether they're kids or whether they're teenagers or whatever, they're paying attention. You know, they might be on TikTok and with their friends and acting like they're not, or act like they don't care, but they're watching. You know what I mean? So I think you being able to be there, be present, ask questions, interact is a huge thing.
Yeah. I think, Donovan brought out like some very good key points. I mean, y'all all did. But the one that stuck out to me was the fact of the pastor and how he was able to gather the youth, and bring them in. So my question is, did you ever talk to that pastor and find out what did it take for him, or how did he even get those young men to come up? Because honestly, that's what's missing in the church, is men standing up being men. There's more women in church nowadays, and I think even back then, than it is men now. And I think there's a rise of men coming in the church now. So,
well, me personally, and I can attest for a bunch of other people in my church, we have something called like discipleship. So it's like little groups. Now, I don't know if you still do it now. Since COVID, everything's getting a little mixed around, but he was the discipleship leader of the youth, of the young men.
Okay.
So I remember like nothing. Me. So I'm 32 right now.
All right.
However, I was going.
How does that make us?
That's why I didn't have to say it.
He said he was close to me.
That's why I didn't want to.
I'm 23.
But I also, I was at his house at like since I was 12.
Right.
Like, so I remember going over there reading the Bible and talking to him, and just him just naturally being himself. However, a little backstory about him was that he was very heavy in the secular rap.
Okay.
Back in the day, back in the 90s. Pretty well known, I suppose. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of rap. So, but he had a major life conversion, and then now he does a lot of Christian rap. But what he is doing now is he's building on the campus, he's building a home for at risk and homeless young people. So he has a space, a gigantic space, and he's literally like from the muscle, literally building rooms and dorms and stuff like that, getting it together for these young people. And while he's doing his own full-time job, he's also he's the athletic director of high school of the future.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where most of those kids came from.
Okay.
So I didn't personally go to him and ask him like, yo, Brother Hans, what are you doing to me? But I know what it is. I see it because it's the same thing that made me want to help him. Like, I wanted to come to that Martin Luther King Day because it was him doing it. I wanted to help him. I wanted to be a part of whatever he was doing just because that's the kind of heart that he has. And it's like, if you have the heart for it, if you have the heart for other people, and that's another thing. That's another sidebar about. I just keep going. That's another sidebar about men. Like, I feel like as men, we all have a thought in our head of a way of how we can fix something,
right,
and help something. No matter what it is, that's always what we're thinking. Like, all right, is there a way I can fix this and do this? And once you put that into action, people want to help you.
Right.
Like, you holding back on that is, I'm not gonna say stopping you from being a man, but it's against our nature to want to not find a way to fix it. So it's like, if you see a problem, try to fix it. Yeah, right. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's good for us.
I think that's the beginning part of the makeup of a man.
Yeah.
When he created us in his image and his likeness, he gave us work to do. So that's a natural instinct for us to see something that's broke and automatically try to figure out how to fix it. So it's actually pretty dope you even said that. So it was like, oh, well, yeah, that's what he said. So how do you think we can take that mentality to the world, to our neighborhood? Because right now our neighborhoods are struggling. I mean, I know I personally walked around and looked. Yeah, it may be clean up here, but just because it's clean don't mean that the people around here are clean.
I think it has a lot to do with everything that we've already been talking about. Number one, you have to meet people where they are. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, say for example, you can't go to a place where people like to have fun and then just bring a whole bunch of seriousness in. because then they're gonna look at you like, oh, you're killing all the fun in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's a fun environment, you have to do fun things. You know what I mean? But I think it goes back to what we were saying about being your genuine self is going to be that thing that draws them to say, well, what is it about, Pastor Brian? What is it about Bernard? What is it about Donovan that, I don't know, I just like being around him, just like he was saying about the other pastor. Like, and then they're going to start to find out more about you, and by you being your authentic self, it just leads to looking at you in a different light. Like, it's kind of like, Dion, like, who is Swag? Like,
yeah.
Why do people want to come play for him? Like, why does he have that type of attention? Like, what is it about him that people really like? What's the draw? So for everybody has their own thing in their own life that people will look at you and be like, oh, that's their thing. I really like that about that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, just to piggyback off of what he says, I think it also allows you to find your tribe when you're your genuine self. If you spend a lot of time figuring out what you are and what you like, and you stay in that, you'll find other people, like-minded people, who want to be around you, who also, have similar interests, want to do similar things. And the next thing you know, you're looking around and you got a bunch of people around you. You guys are all working together for a common goal. Just because you are your genuine self all the time.
Yeah. I keep bringing up Bible stuff. I wasn't trying to do this today. But it's actually perfect because it actually goes back to, I'm trying to remember the actual person that it was. I want to say when they were rebuilding Jerusalem, after it got tore down, he asked the king if he can go out and rebuild the church. And I think that this is exactly what we're in a part of doing now. And it's trying to figure out how to restructure what's been broken. And I think with having y'all here, it's literally just showing me what else we could do to help rebuild our community. Because truthfully, there's some things that I know I want to do, and I already talked to Donovan about one of them, but I didn't tell you about the other one, and the fact that your pastor is already moving in that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, like, I said I was I'm looking this stuff up, but the fact that he's doing this not just for his sake, but for God, and to know that I'm not the only one having the same mind frame, the same mindset to go and do this, even though he's doing it for younger men, mine was for men regardless. So, you start to ask ourselves, well, what can I do to not just better myself, but to better the ones around me? So, how do y'all feel? How do y'all position yourselves in your jobs? Like, are y'all the, it's not, I don't want to say top dog because no one's truly the top dog until the CEO.
I mean, I've always been the top dog. Small store, we used to play ball together, and I mean, it was just like that Fresh Prince. It was like, remember, pass the ball to Will. It was like, pass the ball to Ben. You bring it up, pass to me. You get rebounds, you get steals.
Bernard not liking it. Look at these.
Listen, we all had a role to play. You know what I mean?
First of all, anytime we do a podcast, this is what you're going to get.
Exactly. But this is what's needed. People need to see everybody. Everybody's so used to seeing people in collars doing talk shows. No, like you said, be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get more people to interact with you, to be around you when you're yourself. So this is why God gave it to me the way He said, this is barbershop talk without the cussing, because we're able to really be ourselves. Because when we're in a barbershop, we talk about any and everything.
Yeah.
Any and everything go down. It's just that it's cussing and other things going on in some barbershops.
But it's funny because I really truly agree with what Bernard said. Like, when you get in certain places and you are yourself, you can identify about yourself who you are and what you like, and then you end up in the room with like-minded people. Doing the same things. But I think it's more so of when you are your true and ultimate self, right?
Mhm.
You're doing you. You're
Mhm.
doing you around the other people that are around you. Then somebody looks across you from across the room like, yo, I like doing that too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just then people gravitate towards you,
Right.
Because you're doing nothing but being yourself and walking the path that God had you to walk. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
The thing about the genuine self.
Okay, come
Since
on.
we all keep talking about this. It's actually becoming a very beautiful thing. Is that it's also a double take. So you find people like you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then you just being yourself causes people to want to be like you.
Right.
That's what it is. So that's the most craziest thing. Like you're doing your own thing, and you're not worried about whatever. You're not worried about what anybody else is doing. And then people are like, wait a minute. So why you like that? Like, why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're inquiring of you what you're doing. So like it's really like a double thing. Like you don't want to bring the Bible into this, but
No, go ahead. No,
so let's talk about Jesus a little bit.
Yeah, come on.
Like I kind of, in my reading and research stuff like that, I've come to like a different perspective. But I also think of it like this: like the Pharisees had such a problem with Jesus because where he was at and what he was doing.
Right.
But the Bible doesn't specifically state what he was doing in these things. And as we would know, if Jesus Christ was without proof, we know he wasn't doing anything crazy or wrong.
Right.
But, like, where do you think he found these people at? Like, where do you think he found them? Like,
Yeah.
like he just went to where they were and he was just being himself. If I'm going to talk about the kingdom, I'm going to talk about the kingdom. If you want to hear about it, then you can just hear about it. But that's it. And it's like, it's up to you. Basically, it's like the genuine self is about, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you like it, then, you like it. If you don't, then I'm sorry. And that's just what it is. And I'm like, for the many people that did not like Jesus, imagine how many people did. Imagine how we are right now.
Right.
Simply because, like, he didn't waver on who he was, not once.
Not once.
Not in front of anybody. Like, not in front of anybody. So, not that we have to be like Jesus, and not that it's easy. Because every once in a while, you want to be like, all right, well, maybe I won't wear this because they probably don't like me wearing it. Or maybe I won't say that because they don't want to hear me saying that.
Right.
But, listen, if you can go somewhere with a certain confidence, like, listen, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, or I'm going to be how I'm going to be, or I'm going to do what I'm going to wear what I'm going to wear, I'm going to watch what I'm going to watch. And if you want to watch it with me, you go watch it. If you don't, then, it's many other TV. Yeah, it's on TV. Go home. Yeah. So I don't know. That's like, I don't know, the genuine self. I like that. Whoever created that, one of y'all created that. I like it. I like that.
But I think just like you said, that being that genuine self is the draw.
Yeah.
That is it.
That's
So-
That is it.
You know what I mean?
So
Like,
we found the common denominator now, which is the genuine self. So how many of us is actually being genuine at work? Thanks.
I know I am. I've really identified in myself. I like helping people, but I do this, and at first when I was doing it, I had to question myself, like, am I being sarcastic about this, or did I
Okay.
really do this? Like, so I'll have this thing, like when I'm at work, like I'm very, and you can't tell because of how great I was at basketball, but I'm very humble at work.
Yeah.
You're not the dumb man at work.
Well, no, I am the man. I'm always the man. You know what I mean?
You literally just said you were humble.
I know it sounds like both sides of the coin,
opposite of being
but no. All right, but hear me out.
All right.
humble.
All right, so the reason why I say I'm the man is because I put in work.
Okay.
I get my sales, I do my thing,
Mhm.
and I'm on the clock when I'm supposed to be on the clock, and I work through my shift, and most days I work later.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised at the results I get because I actually put in the work. You know what I mean? But when it's time to praise me, I don't ever praise me. I praise the team
Gotcha.
because I really get something out of us winning together as a team.
Mhm.
So I focus my energy on that. Like if somebody praises me, I'm like, listen, I couldn't do this without all of us doing this.
Right.
Or if I know I put in extra work on something, yeah, I'm pointing out something that somebody else did.
Mhm.
Because for me, it's like when I see somebody else doing better in their life and they're winning, that makes me feel really good.
Right.
So it's, what I said before is like I question it, like, am I being sarcastic or am I doing this for selfish reasons because I want to feel good, or do I really want to see people win? It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of
But I
both.
really want to see people win. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I feel like for me, that's being my most genuine self. So like I'll have friends, like I'll call you and I'll check up on you. It's not just because I ain't talked to you in a long time. It's because yo, I want to see really how you doing. Like, are you winning? Like, what's up? What do we need to do to get you where you need to be? You know what I
Right.
mean? And I have like a list of people in my life that I'm like that with. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
like I don't get to talk to you every day, but when I talk to you, we picking up right where we left off at. You know what I mean? So
Me, I'm in sort of like the same field. Well, I'm in sales as well.
Mhm.
And, you know, I found in my career that I, not only because I've always been good at sales, but I wanted to kind of figure out a way to stay in sales and also help people. Because sometimes when you're selling a product, you're not necessarily selling something, you know, that, you know, a person needs. You're talking to them into maybe a program or something that they don't necessarily need, because that's what a salesman does.
Right.
But as I got older, I wanted to find a way where I was helping people and also still making money. Because
Right.
that's what it's about. So, you know, I got into healthcare, and me at the job as a salesperson, I'm always at the forefront. I'm always leading the team in sales. But I never really, what's the word? I never really talk about, you know, what I'm doing. I believe that leaders should lead from the front. I respect the managers that I respect in my career have been able to get out on the sales floor, not only tell me how to do it, but show me how to do it. Or, you know, they have been people that have put me in position to think outside the box. You know,
Okay.
I've always been good at sales, but Bernard, you're good at sales. What else can you do? Can you put together a project? Can you train a team? Those type of people in my life are the people that I respect, and the people that I respect is who I try to be. You know, so on a sales team, I always want to lead from the front. I feel like you can't teach a person how to do it if you don't excel at it, and that might not always be the case. But at least for me, from my perspective, if you're going to show me how to do something, I want to see what you can do first. So,
Okay.
yo, and it's so funny that you say that because like we talk about this all the time. Like, what does it take to have that mentality that you have? Like, what does it take to actually get there? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, we still saw Rubber Duckies. Seriously. Hopefully y'all know this is what we do all day.
All day long.
But no, but honestly, and I'll be honest, I got this from you because like we used to work together. Even back at like Finish Line, Shopping Mall. Like
True.
this guy always was on his job. Like he was always the top salesman at literally every job I've ever like known him to have. But he puts in work. Like the one thing I learned is he has very, very good discipline. Like when it comes to getting the job done and doing what he needs to do. So this is something that we talk about all the time. Like what does it take to be able to get there?
Right.
And I think when we, after like hours and hours and hours of conversation, we narrow it down to one thing: repetition. It doesn't matter anything that you do in life. You could be reading the Bible, you could be talking to girls. It don't matter what it is. The more you do anything, the better you're gonna get at it.
Right.
Good or bad. So the question therein lies: what are you spending your time doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you spending your time and your repetition doing? You know what I mean? Is it something to strengthen who you are as a person, as a man? Is it something bad that's going to be like destructive to you? You know what I mean? Like, what are you putting your reps in? Like, it's the Mamba mentality. Right. You know what I mean? Like, he was talking about, like he used to go to the gym. He used to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, work out for 2 hours. Then he used to rest for a couple hours, get to the gym at 2 hours, you know, at the regular time, like 9 o'clock, work out 2 hours with the team, rest 2 hours, then go back. After. So he used to get like 4 to 6 hours of extra practice in a day, 360 some odd days a year. Like, of course he was he got the third best player of all the time. You know what I mean? Like, repetition. You know what I mean?
Third.
You got a question?
Oh, no. We got to stay here. You said third best player.
Oh.
Michael Jordan, LeBron, man. Come on, man. Stop playing.
What's your question?
No.
Oh.
As a young male listening.
Talk up.
As a young male listening, y'all were talking about being your genuine self. in a place where sometimes you may not want to be, how do you stay being genuine, knowing that you don't want to be there, or you're in an uncomfortable position? How do you stay genuine?
So, my advice to you, if you're in an uncomfortable position or in an uncomfortable place, in a place where you feel like you can't be yourself, I feel like you shouldn't be there. I feel like you should find, or you should always gravitate to places where you feel comfortable and where you always feel like that you have the opportunity or you feel free to be yourself. And you have that you have control over that. If you're, and I don't know exactly where you're going with this, but if you're hanging out with people that don't allow you to be yourself, you can choose not to hang out with them. You can choose to do something else. If you're in a position somewhere where you feel like, you can't be your genuine self, maybe you can, not go in that place, or, make a different decision one day than what you normally do. I don't know, but me personally, I don't want to be somewhere where I can't be my genuine self. I want to be someplace, and I want to be around people where I can be comfortable being myself, where they value me as I am, and I don't have to be anybody else.
Well, I'll go ahead.
No, you go.
I think also too, I think it's going to be certain times in life where you actually will, not for your whole life, but it's going to be certain times where you have to be in situations with people that either make you feel like you can't be yourself, or not necessarily feeling uncomfortable. I think depending on what we're talking about, that might be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we have to learn how to adapt to certain situations, not every situation. But I think the biggest thing you can do is what you're doing right now, talking about it. Because it might be something as small as you need to discover something either about your situation, discover something about yourself. But I think continuing to talk about it is a good thing. And then also having self accountability, basically meaning what role do you play in it? You know what I mean? Because the only thing that you honestly can control out of anything in life is yourself. Control the things that you can control. Anything that's out of your control, you gotta get that to God.
Oh, no, it's like three different points. I'm kind of the exact opposite, because I like to jump into rooms where people don't really feel comfortable. Where, I feel like it's not okay to be. It's okay to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you stay in that level of comfort, you realize you're not going anywhere. So I feel like as long as it's not detrimental to your health, or to your person, or to your family, or as long as it's not a detrimental thing, you do have to reevaluate. You have to be like, all right, why am I here? But then you have to see a bigger picture of, I don't care what y'all say. I'm going to do what I do. So, small thing about me is that, I don't drink. I don't drink. I just don't compromise on that. So I can go. I wouldn't go to a bar, but if somebody had a party at a bar, I'll be perfectly fine going to the bar and not drinking. It's just a kind of thing where it's just it may be uncomfortable, but it used to be pretty soon it won't be uncomfortable, because the more and more people realize that they can't change you, then they're either going to have to accept you or they're not. Now, if it's becoming a problem where it's something where it's problematic or violent or dangerous, that's a different story. You have to remove yourself from that. But in being yourself, you will have more people positively responding to you being yourself, even in negative situations, than you would have from the negative people talking about how bad it is. That's just my kind of opinion.
I like
I like that.
I like that.
The only thing I would add is, out of all the guys that spoke, is when you're genuinely yourself, doesn't matter what position you find yourself in, you can find your way out, or you can find a way around how to not just be comfortable, but to make other ones around you respect you. Because once you learn respect for yourself, then people will understand how to respect you.
They have no point but to respect you at that point.
They have no choice, because now, even when it comes to the law, if a cop pulls you over, they have to have somewhat of a level of respect. But if you're acting out, all that respect's out the question now, and now they have to represent their authority.
Mm-hmm.
But if you represent your authority and you're moving in the way that you're supposed to and following the guidelines and not trying to make everything, oh, I'm putting this on YouTube and just do everything by the law, you find yourself in predicaments where you'll win before you will ever lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny too. Just to break it down to like a very maybe silly type of example, right? Just take an example like when you're in school, right? Let's say you're in school. We all have been in school. I know not you because you're a straight A great student. I went to school with these guys. We all were in class together, right? So we all had that teacher where, like, you know, you going in class, you joking around. Now, mind you, all teachers give you the same grade. You know, you get the same grade on each report card, right? But you got that teacher where you might not be taking that serious, and you can go in there and you can play around and but then you got that one teacher when you get into that class, if they cut their head, everybody's. You see what I'm saying? So if you get the same grades, why is it a different type of reaction, you know, when you in that class? And the reason is you respect that person because you respect that person being their genuine self. And you know that's the person I'm not gonna play with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not for this format. Maybe if we knew a little bit more about what the
No, I was getting ready to ask. So I mean, it was a very good question.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 different answers there, and they all touched on different parts of it. So hopefully it helps you in some way because you got 3 different perspectives. But I agree with what everybody's saying. So.
Yeah. The one thing I love about this is one thing I learned is you take what's needed, you digest that, and you spit the bones out that you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
But is the question that you gave was such a broad question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you can minimize it or break it down, or that's just how you felt?
Or like maybe a small example, maybe.
If there is one.
All right, so y'all went to class together, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's y'all 3, and y'all are Christians, right?
Yeah.
The easiest way possible. It's Christians in the room, you got atheists in the room, you got Catholics in the room, you got Muslims in the room, you got Buddhists in the room. But the most people that are around you, the 2 Christians that are also in the room with you they're not near you. You have multiple things that are surrounding you that don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you got all these different things around you that already don't agree with you,
Mm-hmm.
but the 2 people who do agree with you are nowhere to be found in the room,
mm-hmm.
What are you supposed to do in that predicament? Because now you got, let's just say sitting near you, you got desks, they lined up.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 people in front of you that's a Muslim and a Catholic. On the side of you, you got a Buddhist and an atheist. And then behind you, you got 2 other Muslims. Now you got all these different opinions coming at you, and it's like, it's just me. What am I supposed to do here? But you know in your head, all right, it's 2 more people that agree with me that's in here, but I can't. Where they at?
So this is where it gets interesting but fun for me.
Same.
So for one, I don't look at the dynamics of religion. I look at the dynamics of human beings first. All right, we're all in the same class. We all believe. Now, after we got that part out the way, now let's start killing the small fox because we got to understand they all have a religion, but do they all have a relationship? Because you can only have a relationship with your God if you're building a relationship. Some of them are just doing it because of their parents. So now you got to find out for you now, am I doing it just because the house I was raised in, or am I doing it because I want to build a relationship? Now, once you build a relationship and you be your genuine self, you'll find that they are lacking what you are gaining. So don't look at it as, oh, I'm the oddball. Look at it as the word says, you're peculiar, a royal priesthood, a chosen nation, to stand out. That way they can see the light that's dwelling on the inside of you and say, well, what do I got to do? Because I know I'm struggling in my religion. I'm struggling in the way I feel. I'm struggling in the way of just being a boy. Because let's go about today's topics. It's he, she, it, they, who, what, and everything else. Transgender, pro-male, pro-female nonsense. Something that we didn't have to deal with. Yeah, it was gay, but the gay stuff that we were saying wasn't gay as it is now. We were saying gay back in our day because they were acting funny, or they portrayed an image. Now there is not a portray, you just the image. So, me personally, I look at it as it's my time. This is how I do on even on job interviews. This is my time to shine. How can I sell myself? So, how can you sell Jesus to those people?
I think I look at it from a perspective from one of the things you're saying in the different religions. I never looked at it like a competition. You know, Jesus loved everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there are strong principles in, you know, the Muslim, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism. Like, there's a lot of things that I kind of resonate with Islam and their principles. So I think we should always look to people or look to understand, you know, where a person's coming from, look to understand a person's religion, because there's commonalities in all of them, you know. So it's never a competition. You always want to come from a place of love, and you can still be yourself in that, you know, in that aspect, you know. Like I said, there's commonalities between, you know, Christianity, there's kind of commonalities between the different religions. So, you know, in some places, in just conversation and leading from a place of love, you can find common ground with someone who's not even in your religion. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, once you guys find common ground, then you have a place to work from. Right?
You was gonna say something?
No.
So I find those type of times to be the most interesting time, because that is the time where your actions are more important than your words. So a lot of times, like, you don't have to sit, like, if you walk in the room and be like, yo, I'm the man of the room, everybody gonna look at you like, what? You ain't the man of the room. No, I ain't gonna tell. What I'm saying is that you don't need to always proclaim everything in order for people to know.
Yeah.
So at that point, in that example, the best you can do is not even speaking doctrine or speaking the Bible, but just embodying it. And once you embody it, that's totally different. See, the Bible says, it says, "Let your light shine before man, so that they may see your good works." But then the last part is interesting, because it says they won't praise you for it.
Nope.
It said they'll praise your Father in heaven for it. So it's like you just being you, and you, the genuine self again, you just being you like embodying the doctrine is what will have these people being like, all right, wait, there's something different about you. And that's even if you don't even go in there and be like, oh man, yeah, praise God for the day. Like, you don't even gotta say that. But just walking in a simple, hey guys, how you doing? How are you? Or just being willing to have, like, if they want to have the conversation, have the conversation. But everybody's not willing to have the conversation without it being so argumentative. So that's when you're like, all right, well, listen, we don't gotta have this conversation, but we can still eat lunch together. Like, we can still talk. Like, yeah, like I'm still cool with you. Like, I'm still your friend. Like, and it's those type of things where it'd be like, dang, like, I ain't never met a Christian like that. Like, this Christian just eating lunch with me. Like, you know, I don't eat pork, so he just gonna throw the bacon away. I ain't gonna say all that, but I'm saying, like, it's just those type of things where it's just like those type of things are ways of just letting your light show.
Yeah.
And while you're letting your light show, it's like God's doing the work on the back end. You're just embodying the doctrine. That's it. Like, you're just embodying the word. And in doing that, it is about love.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that earlier this week. It's mostly about love. Somebody told me that earlier this week. It's mostly about love. So it's like once you're doing that, people are going to be like, and it's not, even if it's not always to your face, even if they don't come to you and be like, listen, I was once a Muslim, but now you being who you are made me a Christian. No, it's not always. It's not. Most of the time, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be that. But who knows? They might go home and be like, yo, let me tell you about this guy. And then they go home. Then the next day they go home like, so is this right that we reading this? Because I met this guy, and you're changing their life whether you see it or not. So I'm like, bro, just keep being yourself. Like sometimes you're not set up to always be yourself in the right place. Sometimes you think you're in the right place and you're still not in the right place. So it's so interesting. It's just interesting. So that's just my particular.
It's really funny because y'all said everything that I really wanted to say. What I was going to just say, I was going to just try to break it down from the example that you gave. You know, you're a Christian and you're in a room with people that believe different things like that. It's not necessarily your job to disprove what they believe, but just like everybody else said, you know, just be yourself. You know, God is not always going to use you to change everybody's way of thinking, you know, but a lot of times he might, you know, like say, for example, like he might use you just to plant a seed, and then he might bring Brian over here to water it, you know, bring Bernard over here to make that person grow, you know, so you just got to follow what God tells you to do. But the most important thing that God tells us to do above everything is just to love. You know what I mean? So if you're over here hating on people because you disagree with what they believe, then what does that say about you? And more importantly, what does that say about, you know, your God? He's not always going to use you to be the person that changes everybody's mind, you know? You might just be the setup guy, you know, then he'll place you over here like the Jaime Lannister sword, and then one day and you'll be the one to strike the blow to change somebody's mind. God works in mysterious ways, but then again, that goes with everything else that we're saying. Like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of man are you not raising yourself, but training yourself to be? Like that repetition we were talking about. What do you spend your time doing? You know what I mean? All of that stuff kind of determines how God can use you in your life as well. Like, you know, like I'll give Brian this example. You know, I know he spends a lot of time in the Word. He spends a lot of time preaching. He spends a lot of time talking to a lot of different people about different things. He's moving in his ministry. So this is where God is moving him to do because of how he's spending his time and what he's doing with his time. You know what I mean? So a lot of that can determine it as well. So
the last thing I'll say on this is never go out and think that, you know, you have to portray that you're something that you're not. When I go to work, I don't tell everybody I'm a pastor. I don't tell everybody I'm a prophet. I just do my job. And then once they had to sit down one day and we was all sitting down eating, and they said, give me one thing or a few things that we don't know about you. And then that's when I said it. They're like, you know what? I can see that. And then it's in those moments, it'll be a click in your head. People are watching. Even though they're not saying it, they're watching. So it goes back to what everybody's saying. What are you doing to prepare yourself as they're watching?
Completely agree. I love those comments when you be at work.
Yeah,
I'm an old Navy model. Haven't you guys seen
I wear V.
But you know, this I believe is what's going to take even more talks like this, to help break the mind of the kids that's walking around here that's don't know. I think so many people are trying to be the man that they don't understand how to be themselves. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I want to say one last thing. Like,
No, go ahead.
I feel like a big thing that's missing too is a lot of these young guys need to start seeing more adult men that care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a good friend of mine and Bernard, they got me into boxing now, right?
Yeah.
So I go in the gym and it's just like beautiful in there. Like you see all these guys and then all of these like kids in there and like these little boys, they like hopping in the ring for the first time and you can tell that they scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
But they looking up at this grown man and he's like looking down at them telling them like, yo, you can do it. You got this. And you could just see the belief in their face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like that's just an example of like, yo, like we need more older guys telling younger guys like, yo, not only can you do it, but I believe in you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna let you fail. You know what I mean? Like from all of the years of, you know, our fathers and their fathers growing up in broken homes,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, parents not together, or different dynamics that broke up the family. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or incarceration, or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
where the man wasn't present, or even if he was present in the life, he wasn't as present as he wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
We need more male representation in every level, and even if it's not your kids, like men need to just be seeing other young men or other boys on the street and giving them encouragement. You don't even have to know that kid. You know what I mean? Let's go back to the days where if you see somebody do something wrong, tell them about it. I don't have to know you. Like, remember when we growing up, they didn't have to know nobody. They screaming out the window, what you do? I'm going to tell your mother. You don't even know mama.
Yeah.
But we believe that.
But we
threat.
believe the threat. It was a threat. So basically, what we have to get back to is the fear of the authority.
And men caring.
Yeah.
Caring in general. And being present. I think, you know, the times that we're in now, it makes it very, very hard. One of the things I was talking to you about is that times are very different and it's dangerous out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that can sometimes deter you from making that decision. But we need a male presence, not only in the household, but outside in the world. We need men that stand up to make a difference.
So, how do we go about it? I mean, it's four of us right now. How do we start it off?
I'll tell you what it is. It's continuous conversations. Continuous conversations. You know the crazy thing is, it's not even just for young men. It's for young ladies as well.
Yeah.
Young people in general.
My daughter, I give her the game every day. She do not want to hear it. I tell her about these boys out here. I tell them what the agenda is. Tell her everything. She don't believe me, but guess what? Still keep having the conversation. And then after a while, they're either going to believe what you're saying, or if something happens that you said was going to happen, oh, I heard that before. This ain't just come out of left field. Oh, he might be right. So the next conversation that you have, maybe, you know, they'll take heed. I mean, look at our life. Like, how many conversations that we have with each other or our fathers had with us, when I always remember my dad would be like, you'll see. And guess what? I saw it.
I saw it. Yeah. Like this was amazing. Just to get, you know, y'all together in y'all busy schedule, you know, just to come and do this talk show and just to see the understanding that y'all have, the perspective that y'all have on being a man and trying to figure out, you know, Donovan's looking for, you know, his shorty, you know, his
It's a stepmom out there somewhere. Somewhere. She's there. I know she's there. I'm gonna find her.
You're gonna find her.
But yeah, no. I'm just honestly, it's funny that we're doing this because I'm actually in my own studies and my own thoughts. Like, I'm actually pushing very much towards like youth ministry.
Okay.
Strictly just because like I was very much impacted as a youth, as a young person, at my church. But now it's like, you know, COVID, everything like that, and the way church is going so much online, it's like everything is pretty much fizzling out. So where I would do this at, I'm not sure. However, but youth ministry is very much important to me, just because I feel like one is for my own selfish reasons, because I feel like the more you help young people, the more you still stay young yourself. So like I always try to live in like the springtime of my youth. So like I try to stay that, but also it's like I think the way I think now, and I do the things I do now. I read the Bible as much as I read now because it was instilled to me when I was younger.
Right.
And I'm like, nowadays, it's like, I don't know. It's even more, it's just better if you just tell a young person just to pick up a book, period, versus just, picking up a Bible, let alone picking up the Bible. So I'm like, if you can, do both, then that's even better in itself. And like, I think that's just where I'm like drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in my job now, I mean, like I run a kitchen at a camp, so I'm always around kids. I'm like,
Right.
so it's like I don't know. That's just where I am, and the camp that I work for is Jewish. So I know he's not going to see this. So what it is that I just have regular relationships with these kids, but I don't change who I am because of it. So
Right.
They're Jewish. I'm not, but I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change myself and be something different. And in that, I've created great relationships with these young people. I've created people that I never thought I would even talk to. So people that don't look like me, kids
Right.
that don't look like me,
Right.
basically. So I don't know. That's kind of like where I am at it right now. I mean, I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out exactly where God exactly is trying to point me and where I need to be. But I mean, constantly working on myself and reading the Word, just staying, prayed up, working with this man right here, and just doing what I'm doing is bringing me to a better position. Like as I said, the most you can do is literally do you. Sometimes you have to do you in order, like, to help somebody else. This is what I heard. And I'm not gonna preach about it too long.
Hey,
Like, it's so interesting because like you get on the airplane
Mhm.
and you hear it all the time. They go over the safety thing,
Mhm.
but it's like I can't help you put your mask on until I put my own mask on first.
Right.
It's like because then I'm doing a disservice to both of us.
Yeah.
So I'm like, at this point in time, I'm trying to keep my mask on. And I'm taking it off sometimes, trying to put it on somebody else, try on somebody else. But for the most part, I'm trying to establish my own mask and get my own mask on. And that all entails like what God wants me to do, what He has for me, like how I'm moving in my life, being healthy, doing what you got to do, like staying focused, being in discipline. Like that's where I'm trying to be right now. And I think that is making me a better man. That is improving my communications. That is improving my conversations.
Mhm.
That's improving just my overall, just what I'm doing, how I feel when I wake up in the morning. That's impacting that, and I think that's what it's about. Like we got to put the mask on ourselves first, and once we get the mask on ourselves, then as soon as you get it on yourself, then you can start helping whoever you want. You can help anybody, and it will be so much easier because now you're taking in that oxygen already.
Right.
So now you know what it's supposed to be. So now you can help that person get to where you got to go. Like that's what I think it's all about.
That's actually very good. A lot of times we forget that in order for us to do a thing. So in my profession, there's a saying: see one, do one, teach one. And that's literally what you basically just said. You can't teach something if you haven't learned it yourself. So I think that was actually like perfect because a lot of times we get in positions and we forget that we was once the student.
Mm-hmm. Also, last thing. I said last thing last time, but I also want to say you can't forget like what you went through in the past.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
But it's not important for you.
No.
It's definitely not important for you. But it's important for everybody next. It's everybody after you.
Mm-hmm.
After so like those experiences are for you to relate to somebody else so that they don't gotta go.
Yeah, because those bushes by Ben House, you don't want to run into.
The funny thing is, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Fell off the bike into it. It's not okay.
Wow.
Yeah, those thorns is a little thick.
Yeah, and it was not okay. You used to get switches out there.
Let the truth be told.
It's just not only just to relate, but also to relate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a common denominator.
and that's how you deal with the youth. I think that's the biggest thing you have with the youth. Like, if you always want to come from a position of up here, and that they're down here, it's going to be no correlation because you're not going to be able to see what they see. Sometimes you got to come down here to bring them up there where you got to go. So I'm like, that's what I'm trying. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be up here so I know where it's at. Then I can go down there and be like, all right, listen, I'm gonna take you back to where I'm at. But I got to get there first.
You gotta get
So I'm like, I'm honestly, I'm just trying to get there.
Listen, I think we're all at that point, just trying to get there.
This is a little bit so, I'm kind of at the rebuilding point of my life. I, been handling some things in the last 7 years that, for once, I mean, you guys know me. I usually have a good handle on things, but some of the things I've been handling this year kind of took me back, and I have to look at things different. So I'm at a rebuilding stage, and I'm 42 now, so I have
You ain't
to
42.
42.
You 40 what?
He had to say 3 times.
Let's go come up with a blue.
First, but I just, I have to, I'm used to leaning on my understanding. I've had some things that have kind of brought me back to where I need to be, and then I've slid, so, I'm struggling with a couple different things, but, I know God's on my side. So.
It's actually funny you even said that, because as you were talking, I was hearing quantum leap, and you can't get to a quantum leap without a setback. But then as you kept talking, it reminded me of a childhood game we all used to play with Chutes and Ladders. And we always rolled the dice, and then we will always try to jump over the chute, but try to climb up the ladder. And a lot of times, in order for us to get to the winning position, we got to go down some chutes. And in that, I find that's where healing comes in. That's where restoration comes in. Because I found out a lot of times growing up, we always heard men don't cry. But if a man don't cry, he'll never mature. So just look at it as a place of maturity. Like, all right, 7 years, but 7 years also means biblically the end. So you're at the end of a thing in order to become to the beginning of a thing. So, it's always that aspect also. So, all right, did 7 years. But now the 7 years, now I'm in my new stage. I got my feet are just not wet, they're stable. So it's always those aspects too. I always used to look at the sides of my glass is half full, never half empty. Because if it's half empty, then I'm already out. But if it's half full, I still got room to grow, and people can still pour stuff in.
You know what's funny too, and I'm sorry because I know we tried to end this like.
No.
I kept saying I know.
When you said that, it just made me think. I was like, yo, you ain't never heard of anybody ever healing from something without getting a couple scars.
Yeah.
Like, when have you ever healed from anything without the bad stuff happening first? Like, never in the history of everdom. Have you ever healed from something without scars? So it's just like, yeah, we gotta go.
Healing is the byproduct of a hurt. But the thing about healing is that the greatest thing about healing is that, like, so if you break a bone and then reset your bone, right? You would think that it will grow back weaker than it was, but it's actually growing back a little stronger than it was. So when you rebuild that bone, or when you burn your skin, like I work in the kitchen, so I've literally had skin on this part of my hand just burned off. But now I'm fine. But it's like, now you get that little extra protective coating of layer. So now I can handle a little bit more hotter heats. Or handle, like, when you go through something bad, it's like, or not even bad, or rough, something you're not even expecting. It's like, now it's all about experience. I look at everything as an experience, whether it's bad or good. Because that bad experience is going to be like, okay, but now if I go through it again, I know exactly where to go. And I know exactly how to get that way. Or I know where my footing needs to be. in order to like if you slip off of something, now you stand back up. You're like, all right, I'm not gonna step there. Now I know my footing needs to be right here. So it's just like I don't know, like it's like a repositioning. Like I don't know, man. Listen, bad stuff happened for a reason.
And
No, you good? No, I said
I was just saying it's funny because they always say that a man always redefines himself at least 3 times in his life,
Mhm.
and that's like a real thing. And it's like, ain't it funny how like God gives you a certain amount of chances to fix your mistakes, to get yourself together, and then a lot of times we don't do it. But when God do it, it hurts.
It hurt.
You ain't never seen God do nothing that ain't hurt. Like, especially after you give the chance, to do it.
Mhm.
So it's just like he's like, all right, you need to move on. You need to go do this. You need to do that. And we all know as much about each other's life.
Mhm.
I can look at you. Y'all can look at me. We can pull up 5 and you.
Yeah.
We can pull up 5 situations where God had to do it and we
Yeah.
ain't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just it's a part of life. But guess what? Just like he said and you said, I think it made us stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the funniest thing about all this. You find out, like we were talking about earlier, you find out your strengths and your weaknesses by the fall. If it wasn't for the fall, you wouldn't know how strong you really are. You know, the scripture says that when we are weak, God is made strong.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're never weak, how strong is our God? If our God is the God of all things, we never need him for anything, how can we call on him to be Jehovah Rapha if we never need healing?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, these are the kind of things that, you know, he uses to get us in a place to where we reference him more than we reference ourselves. I was reading in Psalms like the other day, and we forget that we're supposed to praise him in our fall. And I'm guilty of that 99.9% of the times. I'll fall and be like, yo, this ain't fair. Like, what in the world's going on? Why is this person? He said, well, if you just praise me, I can get you out of your situation that you're in sooner. But the more you downgrade yourself and you don't lift me up, I got nothing for you.
It's hard being Job though, man.
Well,
It's hard going through that trial and praising him still. That's hard.
yeah,
But, you know,
yeah.
you gotta do it.
I'm gonna say he basically told his wife to, you know, shut up, get away from me.
literally.
Literally. Like, you know, you're talking about women. You want me to curse the person that brought me in and gave me all this?
Wait a minute, you can tell a woman out here that's biblical.
You can tell her to get out. She ain't going.
You can't make her.
I don't know. Get a saying on it.
I don't tell you.
You can suggest.
You can use a strong suggestion. But if she got a male coming in, you just might as well go and sleep on the couch or find another bedroom.
Or sleep on the roof.
Build the clubhouse. But
Joe.
right? But
Joe ain't do nothing. Joe was just sitting there like, he was like, wait. Everything?
But actually, if you go back and actually look at Job, you find out that he wasn't as humble as he was supposed to be. This is why.
His friends weren't as humble as they supposed to.
Oh yeah, his friends was
His
horrible.
friends automatically assumed he did something wrong.
Right. I don't know what you're talking about right there.
His friends automatically assumed he did something wrong. So they were just like, listen, man, you had to have done something. Joe was like, listen, I'm just, I do my sacrifice every day. I do sacrifice for my sons and my daughters. And I don't know, it just happened. And it literally just happened. It just happened. Actually, Job was probably the better of us because Job received all that because he was so faithful. That's crazy. To me, that's wild. And I'm like, we don't even have remotely that much faith to be like, yo, like this man was back and practically dying. All his friends was lying around him, no clothes on. They was all naked.
Yep.
That's false. But like, there's all naked. Listen, man. It was 4 of them too.
Yeah.
But
you know, this was most definitely needed, you know, to not just get everybody on one page, but to get everybody's mindset on how to not just be themselves, but how to branch out and help build other people.
Mhm.
That's basically what we're doing and what we're getting ready to do. And you know, you're raising your kids, and you got a new one, you know, 2 now.
1.5. 1.5.
Yes, 2. And you know, it's the phase of starting over. You're starting over and you're starting fresh. And when those two combine, you have a different outlook on life. One thing I always looked at, and I really don't listen to a lot of secular music, if any nowadays, but Drake said it, and I can never shake it because it hits on so many different levels. We can all be looking at the same thing out the same window and have a different view.
Right.
And when we all get that understanding as humanity, forget religion. If we can just get that concept, we'll be better off as humans.
That's like the definition of this whole talk. Like we all said different things, but the same thing.
Yeah. So this was great. Again, I thank y'all for coming on. Thanks again for coming and watching. Until next time, be blessed, be safe, and don't forget, God loves you.
You know, with my brothers, man.